Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Redneck Light. Today we're going to be replacing our battery terminals. So a while back when I got this truck, the battery cables were just terrible. So I opted to get the ones with pre-made battery ends on Rock Auto that were made out of lead. You can see the same thing happened over here to my positive terminal. I even have one here that I barely used and cracked pretty much instantly when I put it on. The primary issue here is, so your negative and your positive terminal are actually different sizes on the battery. The positive is a little bit bigger than the negative. And these ends on the lead battery terminals are kind of a, quote, universal fit. So they're too big for the negative and they're too small for the positive. So inevitably, to get a tight connection, you end up cracking the end. So what I'm going to do is just cut them off and put in a properly sized connector. Now, believe it or not, these are actually kind of hard to find on Amazon, at least for a reasonable price. I got brass fittings with the compression end, so that way I can just cut the end off of the cable and hook them up that way. Well, I read this metal, it's brass, and it's not as malleable as lead. These are properly sized for the posts on the battery. So first thing we're going to do is I'm going to take the battery out of the truck. Since we're going to be working around the battery cables a lot, I don't want to accidentally touch the positive post and the negative and have to worry about that. So pardon the mess here. I'm working on a lot of other stuff right now. But one thing I'm going to have to account for, I've got these extra leads that I've been using off this cable. This really sketchy lead. This was a temporary thing for my electric fuel pump. And then I'm also going to be adding a lead for the carb cheater that I am installing at this time. One nice thing to have in your toolbox, these linesman pliers. I do a lot of amateur electrical work in the house. These cut great for your indoor Romex cables, and they'll be great for cutting the really thick battery cable. Next, we're going to strip off the end here, and just enough to get under that little clamp there, so there's not a piece exposed on the end. So right about there. So next, you want to make sure this is the positive clamp. There's a little plus on it to help you out, and it's the bigger hole. 17 to 19 millimeters is the size there. Then you want to put it in there so that way there's none of it, so that there's not a lot exposed on the end, but you still want to make sure you don't go too far in so it doesn't clamp down effectively. Now these are all 10 millimeter bolts, so we'll just tighten them down. Go back and forth, that way it clamps down evenly. And there you go, one battery cable end. You tug on it, make sure it's snug, but we're all set there. As for accessory wires, I got 4 of them, and we're going to do the right thing and give each one of them their own eye connector. Even though I put those 2 together, I use this horrible, thing here. We're going to do it right this time and make sure that we hit the appropriate size for these. All right, so I got a set of connectors. So what we need to do is match the gauge of the wire. We need to match the eye connector to fit the end of the battery terminal. They were nice enough to pre-strip off the end for me. Twist it a little bit just to make it easier to slide in here. Now I could probably get a much nicer all-in-one tool here, but I like this style of wire crimper to, crimp my wires. So we line that up with the pink one with the red area, the 18 to 22 that's marked on the top there, and just give it a good clamping there. For stripping wires and cutting them, I actually like this one better. It does a lot better job than having to line things up down here. This is also kind of old, so that may be part of it as well. All right, we got our end here. I got this little connector that's like a little shield, kind of helps it heat up quicker. There we go. Once that's shrunk down nice and even. And now we have a nice, clean connector ready to be hooked to the battery. We'll do the same thing for our other wires. We've got all the correct sizes and all of our heat shrink ready to go onto the battery. One thing you want to be mindful of is don't point any of these wires down, because obviously this is going to go onto your battery. You know, I don't really like that. I'm going to put them on the clamp after all, I think. So there we have it, the positive battery terminal with the 4 leads off of it. Do yourself a favor. If you just have a street truck, don't have an electric fan, don't have an electric fuel pump. Save yourself the pain and agony of having all these wires everywhere. And now we'll do the negative battery terminal. This will be much easier because we don't have anything going on the negative, but it's going to be the same idea as the positive, so I won't bother to show that part. All right, and there we go. I've got one lead going straight to the negative part of the battery. Now, the instructions specifically say to send this wire to the battery rather than a ground. Otherwise, any negative wire would normally go to a ground somewhere on the body. All right, so positive battery terminal. I'll push it down as far as you can, and then we're just gonna tighten it a little bit so that it's snug. And there you have it, brand new battery terminals. Everything nice and neat up here. One thing I like to add to this old truck, because I'm not a big fan of the positive battery being this close to the body ground and other metal parts, I just have this little cover here. It doesn't really fit anymore now because of the all the leads on the end, but just something to give it that extra bit of protection as you're working under the hood. But hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you next time.